All right, guys. Good morning. I apologize for the late start. I actually was ready at 9, and I said a commitment is a commitment, so 9:15 it is. Hope everyone had a good weekend, and hope everyone is ready to attempt their first in-course assessment tonight. So before we start off today's lecture, we will be reviewing what we did in the last 2 weeks. Well, last week actually, and we looked at from last week the historical perspective of management, where it came from. We said that management has been around for over 2,500 years. The pest analysis that affects management, political, social, economic, sorry, and technological. We spoke about the social forces and who are the baby boomers, who are the Generation X's, the millennials, what these different um, generation groups, what they, what values they hold dearly to them, the political forces we looked at, economic forces, things that can affect your ability to operate and manage a business. And then we spoke about the classical perspective of management, which is old-time management. We mentioned that scientific management is very much intertwined with Frederick Taylor. He spoke about time and motion studies. He also spoke, sorry, Gilbert's was time and motion studies. Taylor was piecework and breaking it up into smaller parts. We we discussed in detail that this is very much the type of management that takes place with our government agencies, which isn't the most efficient. Um, so classical management was guys such as Emerson, Gant, Taylor, and Gilbert. And then we went deeper into scientific management specifically. And we spoke about bureaucratic organizations that have a lot of structure, um, and a lot of written documentation. Bureaucracy very much exists today, still has a role today, but we see more and more we've seen a shift and a transition into the new workplace. We spoke about other contributors such as Henry Fayol, Mary Parker, Chester Barnard, Fayol and his 14 principles of management, which is which was very similar to, which was, coming off of Taylor's suggestions. Mary Parker, Mr. Bernard spoke about cliques and social groups, and I know I mentioned to all of you that cliques and social groups may not be a bad thing. It actually can turn out to be a good thing. It actually can be used for good. Elton Mayo and the human relations movement. Photon studies, where photon effect is where persons behave differently when their researcher takes too much of an active role in them, and how positive that can turn out to be as well. Employee output increases when management treats them in a positive manner. And we all know the saying that I like to share with everyone: happy employees are happy employees are waking up some of you this morning. Happy employees are Shakila. Good morning, productive employees. That's right. Good. Nice to have you. Anybody? I've not seen anybody else type. All right. Good. So happy employees are always seeing Shanice. Hi, Shanice. Happy employees are productive employees. Yes. So continuing on, we then went on to talk about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I think in my last set of classes, the students said they were never introduced to this, so I went through it, looking at from a sociology, psychology perspective. This guy by the name of Maslow created this triangle of needs with a base, middle area, and a top. It goes in that order on things that we all want as human beings. Theory X versus Theory Y assumptions. Theory X being the pessimistic type, the one that always needs to be controlled and threatened, um, always looks for ways to not be productive. And Theory Y is usually those um, those people who are self-motivated. Behavioral sciences approach, psychology, sociology, touched on organizational development. Then we went on to talk about systems theory. We, everyone knows a system is inputs, processes, output, feedback loop. I don't have to go into that again. I spoke about open systems versus closed systems. I gave the example of the pot on a stove for closed system. I gave the example of any organization as an open system. And the key factor with open and closed systems is the ability of the system to be affected by the environment. I went on to talk about entropy being that which naturally decays and rots or gets destroyed. Synergy, concepts of synergy where the sum of the parts is not greater than the whole. So the whole is always greater than the sum of its parts. The whole car is always greater than the engine and the tires added together. The whole car is what you need. The whole car is the system. Contingency views. It all matters. It all depends. This is an approach that some managers use as well. In today's world where there's a lot of crisis, the contingency view is perhaps something that would be used far more than often, far more than usual. Sorry. We introduce PQM to you, total quality management. TQM is about benchmarking, employee involvement, continuous quality improvement. Spoke about innovative management thinking for turbulent times. I urged everyone as well to have a learning organization culture. And then we brought on some terms of technology, e-commerce, e-business, enterprise resource planning, knowledge management. So that was a quick review of our last huge lecture, 84 slides in total. I hope all is well with everyone and with those slides, and you should be good to answer your exam this evening. I'm reminding everyone again, answer your exam questions by utilizing the theory that we discussed and giving it some critical thought, um, and you should be fine. All right, so today we are going to get on to HR Lecture 2, which is the human resource. And human resources is a very, very important part of any organization. And the organization may be small or it may be large, and your human resource manager may be a person or it may be you, because sometimes as a manager, you are the human resource manager, you are the financial manager, you are everything, especially in an organization that might be small. So this is the part of acquiring, developing, and supporting staff to ensure that they fulfill their role at work. That's a very easy definition. Torrington says it's a series of activities that first enables working people and the organization to use their skills to agree about the objective and nature of their working relationship, and secondly, to ensure that the agreement is fulfilled. So essentially, human resource management is having the potential person who's going to come into your organization agree on what is expected of them, agree on the type of relationship that needs to happen when you come into the organization, and then finally to ensure that that agreement is fulfilled. That agreement is monitored and checked to ensure that you are hired for a job and you actually do the job. On slide 4, you would see a list, slide 4 going all the way to slide 5. You would see the list of roles that a human resource department does. And many of you would just be very familiar with job analysis or hiring, sorry, hiring. Human resources is a lot more than hiring, just looking at someone, having a conversation with them and saying you're hired or you're fired. No. Human resources is a lot more than that. It's job analysis, determining the nature of each job, and this is where the term job spec comes in. What are the requirements of the job? The nature of the job? Is it one that is by an office? Is it one that is on a field? Is it one that requires you to think critically? Is it one that is manually um, intensive, labor intensive? HR is about planning labor needs and recruiting job candidates. So the recruiting is hiring. So recruit is hiring. Planning the labor needs would mean you now have to look at the amount of people right? Planning the labor needs would be the amount and the type of persons that you need to get, or the type of skills that you need to get the job done. Selecting, finally, after you do your interviews, you are now going to select and shortlist your candidates. And in some organizations, it's actually recommended that you do your analysis of your resumes, you make your calls on your references on your resumes, and then you shortlist persons from your physical resumes. Then you call in for interviews, and you take your notes during your interviews. You do your metrics, and the human resource specialist would help with getting the metrics that you have to analyze all of your interviews. And then from those interviews, you shortlist again. And then from that shortlist, you then maybe even a further shortlist. So that's how the selecting goes on before you actually hire someone and bring them into your company. Now, I want you to remember that being the HR person, or being involved in HR, you are literally a gatekeeper of having a stranger come into your company. You have to do your best to ensure that that person does actually meet the requirements, both for the job and for the culture of the organization. And I will bring in this term now so you all can remember it from early on. You not you do not only want someone that can get the job done, you want someone that can mesh well with the culture that you have existing in your organization. And I'm saying that as the manager of an organization, it can be both ways. You can have an existing culture that is good, that is productive, that is getting the job done, that is positive, and you want persons coming into your organization that can join in with that. There's the other option, there's the other part where you may have an organization or a department that has negativity, has a lack of productivity, is not functioning well, and now you may need someone to come in and cause some disruption. So getting someone to fit in to the culture or getting someone to create a culture. Take note of that. You can hire to get someone to fit into your culture, or you can hire to get someone to create a new culture. So orienting and training new employees, well, that's when these employees have been selected, contract has been signed, and you're now coming into the organization, getting them accustomed to where things are, what's the reporting status. Um, Again, the culture of the organization that exists, you'd want to probably bring them into that as well. Managing wages and salaries, well, this is something that's ongoing, and this is the compensation component of human resource. Um, your initial contract, your probation period, what's your wage, what's your salary. After your probation period, is there any increase? After 5 years service, is there any increase? Do increases or decreases, are they affected by the environment? And that's a good question. I was just reading an article from Caribbean Airlines, and they're stating that they are about to engage in furlough of staff, have wage reductions in some, send someone on no pay leave. All of these things are information that you will have to be discussing with your potential employees for they getting upfront information on what the mode of action, what the course of action will be should the company find itself in problems, whether be it because of a global pandemic or whether be it because of some sort of other natural disaster that may just affect your company alone. So that's wages and salaries. Wages and salaries also would include in times when things are good, if there are commissions that you can get, if there are bonuses that you get, um, is it paid sick leave, all of those things, and those would then feed into incentives and benefits, sick leave, um, your group health plan, your vacation periods, your your sick leave periods, all of those things. What um, resources can that you can benefit from that a company owned? All of those things are incentives and benefits. There are some large companies you are able to be afforded a vehicle. Some companies they afford you a laptop, they afford you a cell phone. So all of these are benefits and incentives that are discussed. A prison performance. Now this is something that um, a prison performance. So there's performance appraisal and performance. Right. So there is performance appraisal and performance management. Performance appraisal is a an assessment that is done historically based on historical data and gives you some pointers for improvement based on what you would have done prior. Performance management is a little different. Actually, it's a lot different. Performance management um, is based on a lot of metrics and is also something that's very continuous. So performance management is a very continuous exercise, whereas performance appraisals are like one-time exercises that happen usually once per year, where employees, or sometimes twice per year, where employees are given feedback on what they're doing and what they need to improve on, etc. Whereas performance management is a lot more complex and intertwined and is more it's something that looks at the employee from a complete perspective rather than just specific only to their job. Okay. Communicating, interviewing, counseling, disciplining. Right. So communicating is where um, the HR department usually are the ones that would have the nice soft tone when you are having issues with your direct supervisor and direct manager. And at times, the HR department would be the one that has the rough tone um, if you are being sent to them for disciplinary action, etc. So it can be both ways. It can be both ways. It all depends on your HR manager. It all depends on the culture that this HR manager would have created for his or her department. And it's an important role as well because remember the rules for communication are what's the rules for communication? You guys did com skills in year one. Rules or laws, call it laws. What are they? Laws of communication or rules of communication. What do we say? Come on, guys. What do we know about communication? When you think of communication, the two things that you can that must come to mind. Wake up, everyone. When we talk of communication, there are two things that come to mind. Chelsea, feedback is necessary. Feedback, sender and receiver, right? Precious, you're getting closer. Chelsea, what you mean by feedback? Is it two? Is it a two-way? That's what you mean? That, Samantha, what value am I adding? Samantha, we're talking about communication. How help me understand empathy is important. We have a lot of bright students here. Jahid is on the board with empathy already, emotional intelligence. but I want you guys to focus on what Precious is saying and build on what Precious is saying. Perhaps also build on what Chelsea is saying in terms of feedback. Samantha, I want you to help me understand what value am I adding, um, meaning what? Sender message, receiver feedback. Sender, yeah, right, okay, yes, 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 yes. So the sender and the receiver, but the sender in particular was what is who I'm there focusing on, because the sender would be your HR department or your HR officer or even your direct supervisor, or you as a manager, you would be the sender. And what it's it's one word, but it has a information from the sender must be clear and understandable. So yes, yes, I completely agree with that, Jahil. Completely agree with that. But I'm looking for for categories of communication. Two categories. I don't want to give. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag so early. I'm sure you all know this. And Jahil, thank you, Leandra. Woo, that took rather long. Yes, verbal and non-verbal. And I was about to say it's related to Jahil's suggestion about yes, Kavita R. Okay, verbal and non-verbal. So that's what I'm speaking about. And what's the percentage that both the weighting that both has in um in communication? Leandra, thank you very much. What's the weighting? Weighting meaning WEIGHTING, okay? Majority is non-verbal. Very good. What's the majority? Non-verbal weighs more. Yes, Samantha. So we have Samantha A in the dance. Samantha C didn't answer me up to now, eh? Um, so yes, non how much? How much? How much is more? Is it 51, 49? How much is it? How much is it? How much is it, guys? Yes, Samantha A. Yes, correct. So it's just about 70% non-verbal cues, and then 30% is verbals, meaning that your message must have meaning. That was, of course, okay, yes, your message must have meaning. Okay, it must have, and again, meaning in the sense that how is it quantifiable? Good question. Let me just answer Samantha. Yeah, so Samantha C is saying meaning that your message must have meaning. Essentially, yet it must be full of it must have content, it must have good content, and it must also come from a pure place. It must be empathy driven if necessary, and factual, of course. Alexis is asking, so how is it quantifiable? You'll have to ask the communications experts how they got that percent, but I'm suspecting that they would have done their research in terms of asking receivers questions on how they received the information or how they felt after communicating with two groups that were good at nonverbal and one that wasn't good at nonverbal. So that's most likely how they got the at 70% or 30%. Most likely that's how they got it through research, because communications is actually a course that university teaches. There's a degree and a master's as well in communication. So surely it is something that those figures were derived from research. Good. So now that I have everybody awake, we're going to continue on. Training and development. So training and development is important. You always want your employees continuously learning, continuously developing, um, ensuring that they have all the right skills and tools necessary to get the job done. And let me just training and developing managers, right? So the HR department is not just training and developing their team and other employees, but also as from a management perspective, if it is you have a qualified human resource manager that can actually train other managers as well, that's definitely a role. Build employee commitment. Now, building employee commitment is ensuring that the employee who's there feels part of the company, feels very much part of the DNA of the company, feels very much part and parcel of their role and function is important. And the HRM should know about equal opportunities and affirmative action. Equal opportunity is non-discrimination against gender, race, ethnicity, political affiliation, and anything else that can be considered to be discriminatory. Human resource managers must understand about employee health and safety, and now with our local OSHA Act that has been in existence for just about 10 years, this is something very real, something very important. And finally, handling grievances and labor relations. And we have a very active labor sector in our country, union that is. So it's important that whichever organization that you get into in your human resource job, or even as a manager's job, you should know the union and labor climate of that organization and know if your staff is unionized, and you'll have to know how to adjust yourself accordingly based on your Labor Laws Act. Now, I wanted to go back to on the slide for the last point, um, training and development, and I'm gonna put in this quotation to you. Train them so they can leave you. Treat them well so they don't. What do you think about that, guys? That quotation isn't me, but it resonates with me. It resonates with how I operate as a manager. Train them so that they can leave. Train them so that they can leave your organization, so that they are 10 times more qualified and 10 times more experienced than when they came into the organization. But treat them well enough so they don't. What do you think about that statement? I'll tell you all who said it in shortly. So, but I want you to understand what I'm saying here. Take a real active role in your staff, whether you're a HR manager or whether you're a manager with guys below you in a particular department, or whether you're a CEO or general manager. Train them, continuously train your guys and gals and your staff so that they can have but they can become more equipped with knowledge, they can become more equipped with information, they can be more skilled, they can now improve the efficiency of your organization. Do not ever hold back on training opportunities for your staff. Yes, of course, it must be, you have to have the opportunity and the ability to train them. And once you have that, train them. Pass on all your information, pass on all your knowledge, pass on all your expertise to your staff. Although they may not um, be academically qualified, but you might be surprised to see that some of your staff who may not be academically qualified for your position would still understand your position. And by doing that, you are now giving them a position to giving them an opportunity to empower themselves to become far greater than what they currently do and what they currently are. So I'm emphasizing the point to you guys. Train them so that they can leave you and move on to better jobs, move on to higher paying jobs, but treat them well so they don't. And treating them well so they don't is all of the good things that we speak about, giving them incentives, giving them benefits, treating them with empathy, ensuring that there is an enabling environment in their workplace so that they can become empowered and feel part of the team, feel part of the end result, feel part of the achievements. Train them well so that they can leave you, but treat them well so they don't. Anybody knows who said it? Let me get some. Let me get Google going here for you guys. Does anyone know who said this? Can anyone guess for me who said this? Where did this quotation come from? Yes, Shakila. How you knew that? Tell me how you knew it. Was it Google? Did I mention this before? Shakila, how you got the answer? Was it a wild guess? Brittany George. Brittany, first time I'm seeing you on our chat. Welcome. So quickly that all right, well, okay, yeah. So, for the purpose, since you all have been introduced to these to this to management, and some of you are in entrepreneurship as well. Brittany George. So it's Brittany George. Welcome. Nice to have you on the chat. Yes, I would advise you all to subscribe to the Virgin group. They have a email subscription that you can get, newsletters that you can see how he operates and how he runs his companies. So it would be good information. You would see I read a lot from him as well. And yes, so that's what he said. Train them so that they can leave you. Treat them well so they don't. Right? So that's the man Richard Branson. And why is HR important? And you could see easily from slide 6, and I think I mentioned this earlier on in our first lecture. That no, I mentioned this in summer. Sorry, your staff is the largest cost of any organization. Your staff salaries are some of the largest expenses in an organization, especially if your staff is a highly specialized staff, such as pilots, such as medical professionals, such as engineering professionals. Generally speaking, any professional organization that has to hire professionals and a large number of professionals will always have a huge expense at the end of the month for staff salaries. Staff are also a very volatile resource that they can leave you at any time. So although you might come in and you might sign a contract, that contract um, can be broken with the right amount of notice. You would see in your contracts when you sign contracts that um, resignation from this job must be done in writing 3 months prior, 1 month prior, and that all with the intention of ensuring that the company gets an opportunity to find a replacement for you and they're not left hanging. Staff are a store of corporate knowledge and a means of service delivery. Now, I can see that you will see this over and over when you get out there into the working world, when you get out there in managing your departments, that it is more costly to hire someone new than it is to maintain your current staff. Again, it ties into what I said earlier. Train them, train them, train them, develop them, develop them, develop them, so that they can leave you. But you must marry that with treating them well enough so that they don't. Always be happy for your juniors if it is they're getting job opportunities. Always be happy because that's what you want. The role of a leader is to create new leaders. But don't create a department where people just want to come in, get a 1 month salary and out. That's horrible. That's wrong. That's frustrating. That's non-productive. This store of corporate knowledge and service delivery means that these guys have the know-how. They know how to get the job done. You can train them for 1 month or 2 months, and then for years they know what to do, and you can develop and build on it because as the manager, that's what you're there for. You're there to help fine tune and help them create and help them to grow. As a manager, your role is not there to be in the direct everyday day-to-day operations doing exactly what they do all the time. Retaining and developing good staff allows you to use their skills and develop as a business, as I just said. Individuals should contribute more than they cost. Individuals must contribute more than they cost. What do you all think about that? Some people might be upset with that, or some people might not be upset with that. What are your thoughts? Individuals should contribute more than they cost. The healers, the healer saying very true. Anybody else agree with Jahil? Does anybody disagree with Jahil? Brittany, since that you're new on this chat, join in. What do you think? Individuals must contribute more than they cost. What basic maintenance you talking about, Jahil? What underlying cost you talking about? The cost I'm speaking about is your cost as a salary. How much does it cost to have you here and pay you a salary? And what do you contribute? You're gonna go for the break just now. Seeing someone messages me here that I'm not too sure if this is one of you guys. Um, Samantha A. Always put your best foot forward. It will benefit you in the long run. More knowledge gain and better experience when contributing towards a company. Beautiful. Well said. Well said. Well said. Well said. I want you all to give this statement some thought. We will go for the break, and when we'll come back, we will have a good, lively 5 to 10 minute discussion on this particular point. Are you ready? Jahil, you'll expand on what you meant by underlying cost and stuff, right? Brittany, I hope I hear from you. Shakila and the usual suspects. I hope to hear from all of you. Toilet people, for example. Because I'm sure when they won't bring that from home, what else? Oh, okay, Jahil. No, no, I don't know if I could accept that because remember, as an organization, you are supposed to be providing certain things as consumables. You are supposed to be providing consumables for your staff. I think that is law. That may be law. But Samantha, see, you all want to have this discussion now. It varies. As you said before, treat them so they don't leave. So they don't leave. If you treat them badly, they won't contribute more than they think they should. Yes, yes. Point. So hold on the discussions. Hold on it. Um, we will come back in. If you all can copy and paste these, because when I end the stream, I think I may lose them. So just keep your answers. We'll have the discussion when we come back from the break. All right. So I'll see you shortly. We'll break and return at 10:15.